Hi, my name is Abigail. I'm going to be showing you how to pour a mandibular alginate with tongue space and a good base. I am pouring a mandibular impression with plaster. Plaster is a gypsum product that is primarily used for pouring preliminary impressions for diagnostic models or for the use of orthodontics. These impressions can be used to help analyze the patient's mouth from viewpoints that can't be evaluated from clinical examination. Before pouring up the impression, you should be wearing your personal protective equipment, having your lab coat closed and your goggles on. The supplies needed are a mixing bowl, your measured out powder, your measured out water, your alginate impression, a spatula, a lid or tile, and then a vibrator. The measurement for plaster is 100 grams, while the measurement for water is either 45 to 50 milliliters of water, and cold water will help to slow down the setting time, while warm water will speed up the setting time. And it's important to use the right amount of water, as too little will leave the plaster dry, but too much will make it too runny to form a good base. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and start mixing this. You take your powder and you slowly pour it into the water, mixing it. And then you need to spatulate it. So you take your spatula and, holding your bowl in your hand, you press the plaster up against the side of the bowl. This will help to incorporate the dry into the wet mixture. And you want to get all the dry pieces out, have it fully mixed well. I'm going to keep mixing because there's still a little dry left. Okay. That looks pretty mixed. And then we take it and we put the bowl on top of the vibrator, turning the vibrator onto a low or medium. We press the bowl on top and we let it start to bubble. The vibrator will help force the air out. It'll rise to the surface. It'll look like bubbles. And then you just press it down lightly, and you can kind of move it. Then you can. So we keep tapping it. You can adjust the power of the vibrator if you need to. You gotta try to get all the bubbles out. Then you take your alginate impression and you put the handle up against the top of the vibrator. And taking small amounts of plaster, you put it near the most posterior tooth and let it go down. Then you move your impression to allow for the plaster to flow through all the teeth. You want it to flow from the posterior to the anterior and then up to the other posteriors. And then continue adding small amounts of plaster until all the teeth are filled. Like that. And you move it. going to add more plaster because it's not all the way filled yet. And we can tap it to try to remove some bubbles. Now we add more plaster to it so it's filled up higher. So we add bigger amounts this time. Now we use the leftover plaster to form the base. Use your spatula and take bigger amounts. We want to try to get this up as high as we can. Continue getting all the plaster out. You want it to be very tall because the taller it is, the thicker your base will be. And then you can adjust it to try to raise it up more. Now you take a wet paper towel and you put it in the tongue space of the impression. This will help to make sure that it doesn't get filled with plaster. And you wiggle it on. You don't just press it down. Kind of rock it back and forth a little so it incorporates together. And now you take your spatula and you smooth the plaster and make sure it's completely covering everything. But you don't want to trap your tray when you're doing this, so you want to try to avoid to get plaster on your tray. This will make it difficult to remove. Then continue working to smooth it. And when you're done, you need to let it set for around 45 minutes so it has proper time to dry. And that is how you make a mandibular impression with a good tongue space and base.